We are live. We are live. College football's peek around the corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. Please subscribe to the channel if you love college football, because we cover everything in college football, because we love everything in college football. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome to a live show. It was already going to be stacked full. But then we got a scandal breaking 2 hours before we come on live. We had to reshuffle everything. I got pages and pages of notes. I'm also going to be helping you. I'm going to be asking you to help me talk about this subject. This just broke. The Pac-12. They fired. Okay, I'm going to use the word allegedly, because here at Peek Around the Corner, your humble host does not want to get fired. So I'm going to say the word allegedly. The Pac-12 allegedly fired their president and CFO of the Pac-12 Network. The Pac-12 put out a statement, and I'm going to read it. That's how we're going to start the show. We're going to talk about this the breaking news of the Pac-12 Network. Supposedly, senior leadership, allegedly, don't want to get sued, allegedly hid $50 million from some media partner. I don't know who that is. Maybe you can tell me in the chat, or maybe you can give me a phone call. We're going to get to the phone calls later. We're going to get to the comments later. Yes, we do now provide a way for you all to call in, and you have the floor up to 5 minutes. The number is 763-260-1333. That's 763-260-1333. Like how we always do it this way, okay? I start with the monologue. I'm going to try to keep it short, but there's so much going on. So much going on. I'm going to keep it as short as possible. Then we're going to get to your comments into your phone calls. We're going to be here a while tonight. So buckle up. Brace for impact. Lots of things going on. Nice to see Rebecca Salisbury's in the house. Sean Wild Oud is in the house. James Foster, come on in. The water's warm. Don't be scared. Everything is okay. And everything is going to be okay eventually for the Pac-12. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue what we're saying here at Peek Around the Corner. This issue goes all the way back to Larry Scott. Pac-12 is still trying to clean up the mess that Larry Scott and his leadership created. So let's get that. This is not a George Kliavkoff issue. And the heavy chalk is the Pac-12 is going to be able to remain with their 10 schools, their 10 current schools. And I think the moderately high chalk is the Pac-12 will successfully expand with the 11th and 12th school once they get this media deal done. But we do want to throw this out, and we've been throwing this out in every live show at Peek Around the Corner, and that is George Kliavkoff. It's imperative. It's imperative you change the narrative as quick as you possibly can. Because we're going to bring up an article that was written today that I think absolutely nails the situation at the Pac-12 right now. This was before this scandal broke. And I still think it holds a lot of truths to it. But first, let's get to the statement. This was released by the Pac-12 conference today. I'm sure most of you have read it. Earlier today, the Pac-12 terminated the employment of 2 senior executives, effective immediately. This action was taken following an investigation conducted by independent outside legal counsel. The terminations resulted from a failure by those 2 executives to disclose material information to the Pac-12 Board of Directors and external Pac-12 auditors in connection with overpayments by a Pac-12 Network's distribution partner dating back to 2016. We're going to circle back to that distribution partner. The Pac-12 took immediate and appropriate action to address this matter, consistent with best governance practices. Pac-12 leadership is committed to supporting our members and our student athletes and always operating at the highest level of professionalism. A timeline concerning this matter is set forth below. Timeline of events. In the spring of 2017, the Pac-12 networks engaged the industry-leading auditor to conduct an audit of certain distribution partner payments. The audit concluded that one of the Pac-12 distribution partners had overpaid the Pac-12 networks for the 2016 by a material amount. The 2 Pac-12 executives whose employment were terminated today were made aware of the audit results in late December 2017. After receiving the audit results, the 2 executives failed to inform the Pac-12 Board of Directors or the Pac-12 external auditors of the financial risk associated with the audit findings. Since 2017, the 2 executives have not shared the ongoing financial risk associated with the apparent overpayment with either the Pac-12 Board of Directors or the Pac-12 external auditors. In October 2022, the distribution partner who was the subject of the 2017 audit claimed that it had been overpaying the Pac-12 each year since prior to 2016. So, a distribution partner, I don't know the name of that yet. And once I get through this, maybe someone in the chat can tell me who this distribution partner was. Was it Comcast, for example? It wasn't Fox, and it wasn't ESPN. This is what we were told by people out on the West Coast I believe it was John Wilner or somebody like that, said it wasn't Fox Sports or ESPN. It was a different distribution partner. But this distribution partner let the Pac-12 know October 22nd, the partner was the subject of a 2000 audit claim that had been overpaying the Pac-12 each year since 2016. The distribution partner claims that the overpayments total more than $50 million. So some distribution partner has been paying the Pac-12 more than it should have, over $50 million. And two senior leadership people in the Pac-12 network, and we're going to it's allegedly, it's been reported elsewhere. We at Peek Around the Corner are going to say allegedly throughout the night. Allegedly, the president and the CFO. We're not even going to give their names tonight. You can Google it. I put it on my Twitter account. Other people have been as well, but you can Google it. As soon as the distribution partner notified the Pac-12, the partner had to notify the Pac-12. Keep that in mind. The Pac-12 began looking into the claims and determined that the Pac-12 should bring an independent legal counsel to review the facts of the situation. The Pac-12 Board of Directors Audit Committee promptly hired that law firm of Cooley LLP to conduct an independent investigation. In November of 2022, the commissioner briefed the Pac-12 Board of Directors on the distribution partner's claim in the ongoing investigation being conducted by Cooley. Cooley concluded its investigation on January 13th. That's a week ago. Briefed the commissioner, George Kliakoff, on its findings. The Cooley investigation concluded that two senior Pac-12 executives were aware of the overpayment from a distribution partner since late 2017. These executives failed in their obligations and their duties to immediately disclose this information related to an immediate and material financial risk to the Pac-12, to the Pac-12 Board of Directors, and the Pac-12's external auditors. These executives failed in their ongoing obligation and duty to disclose this information to the Pac-12 Board of Directors and the Pac-12's external auditors. Based upon the findings of the investigation, the commissioner made the decision to terminate the employment of the two Pac-12 senior executives. On January 19th, 2023, Board of Directors Executive Committee and Chairman of the Pac-12 Audit Committee were briefed on the findings of the investigation and the decision to terminate the employment of the two Pac-12 senior executives. The terminations took place on effective today. So that was the statement released from the Pac-12. So over $50 million were overpaid to the Pac-12. This distribution partner had to notify the Pac-12. And I do have to say, in accordance to this timeline, George Kliakoff, they acted real quick on this. They got an independent counsel to come in, Cooley. They did the investigation. It was found out pretty quick. The president and the CFO, allegedly, of the Pac-12 Network have been fired. And that's the story. That's the story. Again, this lays at the feet of Larry Scott and the previous leadership, not at George Kliakoff. And I think he took quick action here to clean it up. I'm going to get to your comments right now or your phone calls. And then we're going to get to the Big 12 way too early predictions. We're going to get to another story involving how I think George Kliakoff, I think he's got to get a deal done sooner rather than later. We've been talking about it. There was an article put out today by Barrett Media that I think they absolutely nailed it. It's the unknown. It's the great unknown that the Pac-12 has to play defense on. Big Ten's not looking to poach. Big Ten's not poaching the Pac-12. That is over with for now. Let's get to a phone call.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute is on the line, the Utah man. How you doing, sir? What's on your mind?
How you doing?
You got
How
the
you doing,
floor.
Greg? It's a wild Ute over here, and I have to tell you here, this is extremely disappointing. And let me give you some context here. So, when the Utes got into the Pac-12, it was a huge deal. It was massive for the city of Salt Lake. All Ute fans, for years and years and years, Ute fans would just wear Pac-12 gear because they were so excited to be associated with the conference. Seriously, we were playing in the Mountain West, and all of a sudden, we're playing versus USC in the Pac-12. So there's a lot of love for the Pac-12 conference out here in Salt Lake and amongst Ute fans because of that. But I'll tell you what, it's massively disappointing what's going on right now. Larry Scott, his failure hiring these two schmucks that can't report a $50 million overpayment, that's extremely disappointing. The Pac-12 Networks, which barely gets any run in Salt Lake City, Utah. Seriously, it's hard enough to get that channel in market. That's a failure. And so many other things. Losing USC, I can't believe it. Like, there's just so many things that are going wrong with the Pac right now. So I'm beyond disappointed to be in the conference right now. And I really think that given this problem with the TV deal that we're going through right now, I mean, this isn't going to help your cause with your partners. Basically, this report that we're, not disclosing $50 million in overpayments. It's just not looking good. And I'm kind of thinking right now, like, is this even a conference that the Utes want to be in going forward? Seriously, there's no local steam about the Utes considering the Big 12. And obviously the Big 10 really isn't in the cards at the moment. But I think there needs to be, especially after all this bad news. I mean, this is bad enough that you might need to look elsewhere.
Yeah, well, first of all, these are the down days of the Pac-12. There's no doubt about it. But it's a long, historic conference. And Utah still should be very proud that they're into the Power 5 conference, into the Pac-12. Because where Utah came from and what they are doing today is absolutely incredible. From people outside of the Pac-12 country, the way people look at Utah has completely changed over the last 10 years, especially over the last 5 years. But, when Urban Meyer started it off, but today, Utah, the value, the image of Utah has grown immensely over the last 10 years. So I don't, these are the bad days of the Pac-12, no doubt about it. I think everyone's going to feel better. Wild Oot, once this Pac-12 media deal is done. There are people speculating out there, people who are a lot smarter than I am, who are saying that maybe this is part of the reason why the Pac-12 media deal has been delayed, because they had to get through this part. What do you think about that?
Maybe so. It's just shocking to me still, the incompetence, though, of what's going on at the Pac-12. The opulence of the Larry Scott era, like working in just like the most high-end luxury buildings in San Francisco, and then it's kind of just filtered down. This probably did factor into the negotiations. Again, how many of your partners really want to do business with you if they know that this was in the background? That two of your senior executives won't report a $50 million overpayment that they've known for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean,
what kind of characters does that reflect?
Yeah, they didn't. That's the thing, they didn't tell anybody in 2017. They didn't tell anybody in 2018. They didn't tell anybody in 2019. They didn't tell anybody in 2020. They didn't tell anybody in 2000. They didn't tell anybody for years. I mean,
They didn't tell their external auditors.
No.
Like, they didn't tell the external auditors this is a legal issue.
Yeah.
And so this definitely is holding things up for sure. But like the bigger question for schools, do you want to be in a conference like this anymore?
And then
that's kind of where at least I'm at as a Ute fan. I think other people in the Pac-12 territory would probably agree.
And there's no doubt that this money's going to have to get paid back, and that's going to come out of the school's purses, right? Mm-hmm. Each school Now they said it was over 50 million. That's coming out of the schools. I got to believe that because they were given this extra money throughout this overpayment. Some of it, not all of it. Some of it would go back to the Pac-12. But so some of these schools, or all these schools, are going to get stuck with the bill now of $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. It's hard to know. That's not going to feel good for these schools. I hear what you're coming from. I do think, in accordance to this timeline, that George Kliavkoff did act pretty quickly on this, right? So That's good news. If one last thing, and I'll let you off. If this was something that was holding back the signed, sealed, delivered, and announcement of the new Pac-12 media deal, if this was truly what was holding it back, then would you concur that, again, now that this has been dealt with, that we should be seeing a Pac-12 media deal announced pretty soon, correct? Or am I wrong on that?
I think you're correct about that. If all the new partners knew about this previously, which they probably didn't. But again, given the character concerns, really, if I'm Amazon, am I second guessing things? Maybe not.
That's a great point. That's a great point they just made. Did these other media companies? These other potential new media partners like Amazon, did they know about this? I'm going to say they probably did not know, right?
Right.
So
does this lessen the demand for Pac-12 content? That's the question that we can't answer.
Yeah. See, and I don't even know, does this pertain to only around the Pac-12 network, the distribution of the Pac-12 network, the payments on that? It probably does, because it doesn't, according to reports, it doesn't involve Fox Sports or ESPN. So it's the Pac-12 network. Now, I did hear somebody who I respect did mention that the Pac-12 network, the Pac-12 would love to put the Pac-12 network behind that Amazon sports app. We talked about that sports app previous, where you pay extra for that sports app. And that's where the Pac-12 network the content would be with that. But the tier 1, the tier 2, the bigger events, sporting events through football, especially in basketball, that would be placed on ESPN and Amazon, but not behind the sports app. So, my first thinking of this was, my goodness, look at all the problems the Pac-12 network has. And now look what just happened. It's really going to crush it. Because Comcast, this is not good. But then maybe if they get a deal with Amazon, they can put that Pac-12 behind that sports app on Amazon Prime. Just like SEC goes to SEC Network, Big Ten goes to Big Ten Network. Maybe that will work itself out. But thanks for the phone call, Wild Dude. Hang in there, my brother.
Thanks for your time.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, sir. All right. That's Wild Dude bringing it to us. Yeah, tough times. Tough times. Let's get to some of the comments. And again, if you call, you get the floor. Put out your emotions. Put out what you're thinking. Give me your theories. Is it Comcast? Just let me know what you're thinking. It's 763-260-1333. Okay? All right. So, Like Rebecca says, so much today. So much today. James Foster, hey, Greg, thanks for the Pac coverage. You got it. Sean, the Pac-12 is a disaster. It's embarrassing. Rebecca, 50 million, not so much hidden from the partners, but hidden from the conference president and commissioners. I view it as the Pac-12 got this money. They distributed based upon Pac bylaws to the schools. And they took it. Of course, they would take it. They think it's theirs. I think the 50 million was hitting from whoever was distributing the content, possibly Comcast, of the Pac-12 content, and it was hidden from them until they figured it out in October, and then the Pac-12. This is just another thing where current Pac-12 presidents and athletic directors are like, what the heck was going on during the Larry Scott years? I mean, Rebecca says Comcast is the likely one. R. Webb, nice to see you in the house. The rumor, it is someone like Comcast who would have been a Pac-12 network distributor, thus the tie to the network president. I haven't seen that reported. A lot of people in the chat believe it's Comcast. It does make sense. It does make sense. T-Duck, what happened to the Amazon deal? That's a good segue. Let's get into the Amazon. And there's an article that came out today. I'm going to read it real quick. Short article. Barrett Sports Media. Pac-12 sources express concern with no TV deal. If we know anything about college sports, it's that you can't assume the status quo will last. Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff has been unwavering in his timeline for finalizing the conference television rights deal. However, many inside the conference are growing impatient. And now you have this on top of what's been going on, right? A report from John Wilner of Mercury News details conference sources growing in worry about the unresolved rights deal. The Pac-12 cannot get overconfident, one source told Wilner. If we know anything about college sports, it's that you can't assume the status quo will last. Kliavkoff's lack of insurgency is explained by his belief that Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah won't receive enough revenue from the Big 12 to explore a move to that conference. Makes sense, right? You can understand Kliavkoff's confidence in that. While the Big 10 reportedly remains reluctant to poach Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford. The recent departure of the Big 10 Commissioner Kevin Warren only cements that position. Again, completely logical, absolutely makes sense. We can understand George Kliavkoff's overconfidence. The Pac-12 is the only Power 5 conference with remaining football inventory until 2031, giving it a position of strength. Again, I think we can all understand. Another reason why George Kliavkoff maybe is overconfident, gives him a reason to be overconfident, and he doesn't have to rush the bid. He doesn't have to rush to make a deal. However, sources inside the conference are worried about overplaying its hand. If you slow play it, a source says Wilner, you become vulnerable to the unknowns. The conference reportedly sent robust proposals to ESPN and Amazon Prime to secure the conference television rights, but nothing has been finalized. And then it goes on to talk about how George Kliavkoff likes the emerging Pac-12 women's basketball content. So, again, George Kliavkoff has a reason. I can understand his reasoning why he says, well, it's okay. We're not going to get poached now. Big Ten is not going to poach us. Kevin Warren is out the door. Big Ten doesn't even have a commissioner. They have no interest in grabbing more schools in the Pac-12, at least for now, and probably for many more years later. And the Big 12 doesn't look like that $31.6 million a year. Great exposure with Fox Sports and ESPN. The Big 12 deal, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to poach anybody. According to Rick George, the Colorado athletic director, Colorado's definitely not a candidate to be poached. I don't believe Utah is as well. I don't believe Arizona State as well. So it basically comes down to Arizona. I think that's the last linchpin to be able to poach a Pac-12 school that Brett Yormark is targeting for that fourth window. Remember that fourth time slot that the Big 12 is trying to expand to, with possible Arizona and maybe another school and maybe Gonzaga in basketball. So George Kliavkoff, you can see why he's not pressing the panic button. However, it's the great unknown. It's creating a vacuum. You never know what's going to happen. Cloak and dagger. That's our motto here at Peek Around the Corner. Like Wild Dude, he brings up the point. I mean, what if Utah, Oregon, Washington, and Stanford, what if those four schools are like, man, this is crazy. Look at the deal we're getting presented from Amazon, ESPN. We're rolling the dice. Do we even do this deal? Should we think of something else completely out of the box? The more time lapse, the great unknowns. One of those great unknowns could pop up. So I just wanted to go through that article. We'll get back to your comments. Again, the phone number is 763-260-1333. Monovision. If they owe Comcast $50 million and their biggest revenue stream for the Pac-12 network is Comcast, where do they get that money? Great question. Great question. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a battle between the schools and the conference itself, where the conference has to borrow money. Like the schools are going to say, we're not giving you back the $2, $3, $4 million that you gave us in distribution per the Pac-12 bylaws. This story has just begun, right? It's just begun. We don't know where it's going to end up. Tony, this could explain why the PAC TV deal has not been announced. Also, is this a criminal activity on the part of these two? It's got to be a white-collar crime, allegedly. Here at Peek Around the Corner, we say the word allegedly.
Call from
Hampton.
Yes, sir. How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. The floor is yours.
I was just seeing how, with the Pac-12's new deal and Amazon being considered, how closely are they paying attention to the MLS's new deal with Apple? And will there even be enough time for them to watch it unfold?
Now, Apple, they've got the whole MLS deal for the next how many years?
10.
10 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
I mean, obviously they don't have 10 years to wait, but
yeah.
Will Apple even disclose enough stuff for them to learn from it?
I don't know. I don't even think, are we assuming, like I have been assuming, that Amazon is the only streaming company that's really in contact with the Pac-12 at this late hour. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks that. Maybe people believe Apple's still involved in this. Or possibly...
Well, even if Apple's not, it would be it's getting the MLS mostly off of television. There's one game a week or something like that on Fox, and then everything else goes to Apple. I guess that model would be available to Amazon.
All right. So what you're asking is Amazon going to get like 90% of, or 90% of Pac-12 content? Is that what you're asking?
I guess just,
I'm sorry.
is that something that they will likely look at and try to learn from as Major League Soccer tries to figure out the new distribution future? I know the Pac-12 is looking for that also. Will there be enough time for them to learn from each other in that?
That's a great question.
Or is that just a non-factor?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. This is uncharted waters. I used to follow MLS very closely, not so much anymore. Are people happy with that Apple MLS situation? MLS consumers, the fans?
We don't know.
It hasn't started yet. But, you know, this is such uncharted waters in regards to a football, major Power 5 conference, Pac-12, possibly putting 80-90% of their content with the streaming company Amazon. I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know how all this is going to work out. If I had to guess, and it's just a guess at this point, because again, we have this news today, my guess would be Amazon would take in the Pac-12 network, most of the tier 1 content. Amazon's not going to do a deal with the Pac-12 unless they're getting the highest level of the content, right? So I just think Amazon's going to get scooped up most of this. And the basketball is going to possibly go to ESPN. And maybe ESPN's going to get a few games, football games, and maybe CBS gets one primetime game every week or something like that. But I don't know. I have no idea how it's going to work.
Fair enough.
All right. Thank you, sir, for that phone call. I know I didn't answer the question. It's
kind of a hard one to answer, so that's okay. It's like you said, everything is it's fluid with the way that the TV markets work now. And
yep.
With regional sports networks, seemingly losing money and all of that.
The RSNs,
totally different world.
Yeah, and it's changing constantly. And you know what? A year from now, or not a year from now, but maybe 2 years from now, we're going to be having this conversation, and we're going to be saying, well, no doubt this was the right move for the Pac-12. You know, this is great working out for MLS. They're high intensity consumer base. It's a smaller fan base, but it's high intensity. This is perfect for Apple. It's perfect. It's the perfect distributor of MLS content. You know, and it's great for MLS and Apple. And maybe somehow this works with Amazon, but I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for the phone call. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you. All right. I didn't have a good answer because I don't even know most of the questions in regards to again, when the Pac-12 finally gets this deal done, we're going to all be looking over it, and it's going to be fascinating to see what's under the hood, how it all is going to work out. I mean, I think the least interesting part of the Pac-12 deal is the media money payout to each school. I think that's the least interesting part. The exposure part, how it's all going to work out. That's the most interesting part, and that's probably the thing that most of these schools are concerned. However, now that we say that, we have to go and look at the breaking news. What was it, yesterday or the day before? All these days are running together. I think it was yesterday. The California bill that's coming out from a legislator. His name is Holden. He holds a chair of the Appropriation Committee in the California State Legislator, and him and another person are pushing forward a bill that would make it so 50% of all revenue, 50% revenue sharing, not profit sharing, 50% revenue sharing of all athletic departments in the state of California flows to the student athletes in the sports of football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. 50% of all revenue, which I believe is a horrific bill and a horrific situation. It's going to crush. I mean, to have your athletic department managed by the state legislator, by state government, first of all, is a horrible idea. Second of all, it's going to really hurt the non-revenue sports, because most of that, a lot of that, when football, we all know football, it drives the bus for the athletic department. It brings in the most money. Then men's basketball. In some conferences like the SEC, possibly the Big 12 in some schools, baseball is a revenue maker, right? Some hockey programs like University of Minnesota, the hockey program's a revenue maker, but most of the revenue is made in football and basketball. And of course, football makes way more than basketball. So your football program money funds the rest of the sports that your university sponsors, that your athletic department sponsors, that your athletic director is responsible for. And if you're going to take 50% of that football revenue, not profit, 50% of the revenue, and distribute it among the student athletes, you're going to wreck the other sports in your athletic department. I'm going to just do a short little rant and then get back to your comments and phone calls. Again, the only solution I see out of this. Now, people are saying, Greg, this California bill is not going to pass. It has no chance. Well, according to the reports, this one has more support than the previous one. And what if they readjust this bill and the next bill that they introduce gets even more support and it passes? Or what if the state of Oregon passes a similar bill? Or what if the state of Washington passes a similar bill? Or some other state? Because somebody is going to succeed at doing this. I think the only solution to all of this is for FBS universities to wake up. We have a changing world. The student athletes need to get higher compensation. NIL is not going away. Name, image, and likeness is not going away. But to save the sport that we love, which is college football, you need to get these players, these student athletes, to have representation behind a union, some organization to represent them, to hammer out a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement with representatives of the universities and conferences, have protections both ways, so we can have some stability to the game we love, where the players are protected with health care and everything else that goes with it, like a professional athlete. They sign a 1, 2, 3, 4-year contract, whatever they want to do when they're in negotiations with the school. So the school knows that they have the player for this long. The player knows that he's on the roster for so long. He gets paid a certain amount, however those negotiations go. You eliminate tampering, right? You eliminate all that, and we can get back to loving college football the way, to elevate the competition, because that's the product that you're selling in college football. Competition. We don't want to have endless stories about football player A playing for a school, and then in the middle of the night he switches to another team because they tampered with him. He wasn't even in the transfer portal, and they went and enticed him with money. He entered the portal. Now he's with the other team. An example of that is Addison from Pittsburgh to USC. There's lots of examples out there. That's my solution. I don't know. I haven't heard of any other solutions out there. Let me know in the comments section. But we have serious problems. California state bill, you don't think it's going to pass? Maybe you're right. Although it sounds like they're pretty optimistic that it will pass. But okay, let's say this one fails. Will the next one fail? Will the next one fail? And then you have President Linda Livingston, who wants the Congress, the United States Congress, to give these student athletes a special status to where they don't have to become employees of the schools. I don't like that either. I do not want the government to get involved. The Supreme Court has already ruled that the student athlete cannot be treated any different than the student in regards of name, image, and likeness. Special status, I don't think it's going to work. But we shall see. Let's get to your comments. Enough of me blathering on. Tony, Greg just got off the phone with Merrick Garland. He said your phone is tapped. I have no doubt about it, Tony. No doubt about it. Rebecca says the conference did the right thing once they knew it was happening. Absolutely. As we said previous, George Kliakoff, it looks like in accordance to the timeline we've been given, he acted very quickly. Monovision, where do they go though? Big Ten doors are shut. ACC can't afford it. SEC wants to stay regional. Big 12 can only add 4 at most. I don't have the answer, Monovision. But when there's a vacuum, when there's delay, it gets filled up with something. I remember, Monovision, when I put out on March 31st that USC called the Big Ten and they were going to work to get into the Big Ten. And you know the whole story after that. In the spring, we put out tweets. We contacted media companies. And eventually there was an article in the Los Angeles Times that explained how we broke that. But when I put that out on March 31st, that USC called the Big Ten, and they were planning to go to the Big Ten. And then when I put out videos on Twitter in April, May, in June, people thought it was absolutely crazy. I mean, yes, it was talked about previous, speculated, people theorized the year before. But man, I got hammered. Today, as we sit here on January 20th, and we have this show and we're talking about it, people say, yeah, USC, Big Ten, it makes sense because they wanted more money. They want part of the TV contract. They want to associate, whatever. Now it seems, well, of course it happened. But I tell you, March 31st, April 4th, May, June, I got hammered. Look, the comments on my Twitter account, the DMs that I got, not from the people that I was giving the information, like proof that we were being followed, the cloak and dagger stuff, the media companies, the couple media companies that said, whoa, yeah, this is happening. We got hammered for it. So what I'm saying is, you want an out of the box idea? Utah? No, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm not going to say it's happened. No, there's a 0.0001% of this chance of happening. But Utah, Washington, Oregon, Stanford, they bundle their content together they become their own little independent quorum, whatever. And they try to sell themselves to a media company, maybe to Amazon, or somehow ESPN would open up the books again. Probably not, but open up the books again for ACC and say, okay, we were only willing to expand with you ACC schools if Notre Dame joined us, but are you okay with including a pod out there in the Pacific Coast? Or crazy idea? Probably going to happen. But again, when you leave this vacuum, this delay, it invites the great unknown from happening. The great unknown from happening. So, Tony, I love Utah in the Big Ten. Luis Carlos Diaz, San Diego State to the Big 12. Monovision, no future expansion without Notre Dame. PAC schools would want the Big Ten making another $50 million to get Swarbrick on board. Yep, no Big Ten expansion for now. T-Duck, Big Ten going after Virginia, North Carolina in 6 years. Tony, agree with Notre Dame should be first. Sean, the Pac-12 had a real opportunity to strengthen their position in 2021 after Texas and Oklahoma announced their intent to lead the SEC. The Pac could have absorbed the rest of the Big 12. Monovision, Notre Dame needs Big Ten. Big Ten needs Notre Dame. Luis Carlos Diaz smashed Greg. Breaking news again. Love the show. Thank you, Luis. I appreciate it. Good sir. Rebecca says, by the way, the CFO and conference president no longer appear in the directory. The CFO was hired in 2017. It does look like, allegedly, CFO and president were fired today from the Pac-12. The president and CFO of the Pac-12 Network. Monovision. By the way, Comcast owns NBC Universal as well, who is now a partner with the Big Ten. True. Beavers officially announced a new running back coach. Rebecca Salisbury, 8 teams don't want Oregon and Washington in the Big Ten, aside from Ohio State. I bet it's Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, Iowa, Illinois, and Rutgers. It's probably a lot of truth to that. Dale Donuts, if a school leaves, is that school on the hook for the $50 million? What you're asking is USC and UCLA on the hook for part of that $50 million? I got to think they are. That's what we know in this story right now. You got to think they are because they got money from that. They were overpaid. The Pac-12 was overpaid for the Pac-12 network. And that money was distributed among the universities. So yeah, I think USC and UCLA have to write a check. I think so. We'll see where the story goes. Will the schools push back on the conference? The administration part of the conference? Because, these conferences also collect money from these deals. Just an example, the Big Ten Network, when the money gets just distributed to the schools, the Fox Sports takes 61% of the cut, the profit. Big Ten, the other 39% of the profit, the revenue that's created after all the bills been signed, gets distributed among the 16 schools of the Big Ten and the conference, Big Ten Conference.
Call from
Rebecca Salisbury.
To accept, press 1.
Rebecca is in the house. How you doing, Miss Husky?
I'm doing good, Greg. How are you?
Good.
I'm calling because I put it in the chat, but Bob Thompson responded to one of my tweets.
Bob
Essentially,
Thompson?
Bob Thompson,
Got it. Beautiful. Okay.
And essentially he said, it's not good news for the conference from a financial standpoint. Pac-12 is going to have to pay that money back with interest, most likely.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
and he said he said going forward, you know, the conference is gonna lose some of that revenue. So he's like, it's like a twofold bad thing happening here, and he did say he doesn't think it'll affect the media negotiations. So this has nothing to do with media negotiations in his opinion, because it's the distributor, not like Fox or ESPN or somebody like that. But
so
he also does go on to say that USC and UCLA got paid that money too. They will have to pay that money back.
Yeah.
Because it got distributed, like you said, amongst all the members.
Sure. Okay, but what you said, Rebecca, was you added a little bit to the story there. You said they're going to have to pay back, but with interest. Was that correct?
I did. That is correct. Bob Thompson did write, probably with interest.
That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt.
So who knows what that percentage will be, but it's not good for the conference. It's not good for, essentially 12 schools and the conference itself to pay it back. So, and from all the story, these guys knew about it every year and just never said a word to anybody. So it's like, that's
got to be a white collar crime, right? I mean,
I'm starting to assume it's a white collar crime. Like, it's $50 million that you just took and gave away, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
So it's like you covered up where that money was. So like the accounting has to have been tampered with at this point.
Yeah. And not all that, I assume, I shouldn't say this like factually, but I would assume that $50 million is, they don't distribute it all to the schools. The conference itself gets a little bit of a slice of it. So the conference is going to have to.
It's like dividing it up by 13.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a big twofold here. It's the interest is the part, because it's like, okay, before it was probably like $3 million per school, and the conference, and now you're looking at whatever the interest ends up being, and they might charge it per year.
Compound interest, yes. Yeah, that's not good.
And I would also assume that we're going to know who the partner is, because somebody's going to put in I would think they're going to put in to get a public records request from one of the public universities.
Wow.
Because they know about it. Like, the Washington president, of course, is the chair for the conference president. So she released a statement, but it's like, it's just a lot of bad in terms of the $50 million and what people were doing. And it does add more to that Larry Scott saga that everybody thinks, like, we all rip on Kliakoff about what's happened in the last, 10, 11 months.
Yeah.
But it's not like he's still done a lot better in the last 10, 11 months than, say, the previous person did in a decade. So.
Yeah, this does not lay at his feet at all. No doubt.
No.
And then the next question is Comcast themselves. I mean, would this affect the relationship, of Comcast wanting to keep distributing Pac-12 content?
Correct. Because Bob Thompson also did say it's either Comcast or Charter. They're the two biggest distributors of the conference network.
Okay.
It's one of those two, if not. It's one of those two. So I'm leaning toward whoever the biggest one is, because it's a large chunk of change.
Yeah, it is.
It feels like it would be the bigger of the two.
Okay. I don't know who that'd be. I know in Big Ten country, Comcast would be the biggest.
I know that it's Comcast is the biggest in every state but Arizona. Arizona,
Okay.
I think, uses Cox, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken. Somebody in the chat could correct me, but I think it's Cox that is in Arizona. I think Comcast is in Utah, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and California.
Wow. Yeah, it's getting a little worse than again, this story just broke. We're going to learn more and more about it. The Comcast, if it's Comcast, that whole angle, are they going to distrust the Pac-12 to the point where they... Yeah, this is not good news. But hopefully, as Bob Thompson said, as you reported, Rebecca, hopefully this does not affect anything going forward, right?
Correct. He also retweeted you. I'll give you the heads up. He did retweet you. So
did I say
look.
something bad in my comment? What did he retweet?
No. He retweeted you about one of your questions that you had in regards to what had happened with it. I did see that when I was scrolling.
All right. I know we talk back and forth. We agree most of the time, me and Mr. Thompson. But of course, he's the former president of Fox Sports, so people should listen to what he says.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca.
All right. Yep. You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that information. Outstanding.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Woo! Thank you so much for that phone call, Rebecca, and the added information. That's what's so great about the call-in. Call in, because there's always stuff breaking, especially when we're doing these shows. Call in 763-260-1333. That's 763-260-1333. We're going to continue on. We got a lot to talk about. I want to get to my way too early Big 12 predictions. So I'm going to get to it right now, okay? If that's all right with you all, I'm going to get to... Now, this is my way too early predictions. My way too early predictions will come early summer. And then my final predictions will happen in August. Now, I am known as Greg the Cooler. Everything I touch turns to ice, basically. But we'll see. We'll see. These are my first thoughts on the Big 12. And next week, next Friday or Sunday night show, I'll be doing another conference in the way too early. The next week, I'll be doing another conference. We're going to start out with the Big 12. Now, remember, and I'm going to get to your comments. I know there's a lot I haven't gotten to. If you want to make sure I get to your comment, just hit the $sign for the donation, and I'll get to your comment as soon as I can. Number 14 on my way too early predictions. PATC. Again, there's 14 schools in the Big 12. There's 4 newcomers. Oklahoma and Texas are not leaving yet, right? It looks like they might leave for the 2024 season. Definitely by the 2025 season. But there's 14 schools in the Big 12. Number 14. Sadly, I have to predict. And I love this program. I love them. But I have to predict the West Virginia Mountaineers to come in 14th place 2023 season. Neil Brown, I think West Virginia is going to bottom out this year. They did an entire internal hire of Chad Scott for the offensive coordinator. I don't know if he's going to be a good hire, a bad hire. I don't know if it even really matters, because how much control is Neil Brown going to give up in the play calling to give to a Chad Scott? That's why I was hoping West Virginia was going to do an outside hire for the offensive coordinator position. West Virginia, number 14, seems to be the spot. Garrett Green, he's good. In certain situations, he's good, but as a full-time Big 12 quarterback, I'm not sure. Nico Marchio, redshirt freshman this season, out of the state of Arizona. He's got some skills. I look for Nico Marchio to take the number one quarterback spot in the middle of the season. I also think that Neil Brown's going to get fired in the middle of the 2023 season. I think he would have been let go last year from the former athletic director of West Virginia, Shane Lyons, but I don't think they had the money to do it. The buyout was too big. So Neil Brown gets another year, but I think West Virginia bottoms out and takes 14th spot. Number 13, BYU. I think the Big 12 schools should kick BYU while they're down here in 2023, because I think the BYU Cougars are going to skyrocket in that conference. But they have lost too much over the last few years. Jaron Hall, the quarterback. They're bringing in Keaton Slovis, the transfer quarterback. I wasn't very impressed with him last year with Pittsburgh. BYU lost their offensive line. I think they're going to take the 13th spot is where I've got them. But soon BYU is going to climb up the Big 12 charts. That's the new member of the Big 12 Conference. Number 12, I've got the Houston Cougars. Dana Holgerson. His recruiting at Houston went exactly how it happened in West Virginia. It flatlined. Houston was very disappointing last year. They were a preseason AP top 25 team. But their offensive line was horrible. Their defense was 105th in all of FBS schools, 105. They lost their quarterback. I don't see it happen. Donovan Smith is a transfer quarterback they got from Texas Tech. I got Houston, number 12. Dana Holgerson's going to be in the hot seat at the end of this season, at the end of the 2023 season. Number 11, I got Cincinnati Bearcats. Not impressed with their coaching hire, Scott Satterfield. Going to be a lot of changes. The transfer quarterback, Emory Jones, not all that impressed with. Cincinnati, I've got them at 11. I think they're going to take a huge hit losing their head coach, Luke Fickell, to Wisconsin. Number 10, I've got Iowa State Cyclones. But Cyclone fans, this is one of the three schools that I might just boost up a few slots after I see what happens in spring football. Iowa State's got their returning quarterback, but the guy I'm watching is true freshman J.J. Cole. He is a player. I love his tape in high school. J.J. Cole, I was heartbroken that the Iowa State Cyclones got him and not my Minnesota Golden Gophers. He is the future at Ames, Iowa. J.J. Cole, they got a new offensive coordinator. Matt Campbell needed to get some more offensive juice in their program. They lost so many close games last year. I got Iowa State at number 10, but I might be looking to move them up. I want to see J.J. Cole in that spring game down in Ames, Iowa. I got the Oklahoma State Cowboys as number 9. They had a rough offseason. Mike Gundy lost his quarterback, Spencer Sanders. He went to Ole Miss. He had another year of eligibility, but he hit the portal. Oklahoma State lost a bunch of their wide receivers with experience. It's going to be a down year for Mike Gundy and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Number 8, I got the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas Jayhawks. I never thought I'd be saying here for the way too early 2023 season, Kansas number 8 out of 14 schools. Lance Leopold, their great head coach, is coming back. They got Jalen Daniels, their great quarterback, who got injured last year. Let's not discount that. Kansas was going like this, and then they flatlined and dipped because they lost their starting quarterback. He's going to be healthy next year. They're going to have the return running back, Neil. I think they're number 8. They're going to go back to the bowl game next year. Number 7, I got UCF. The highest newcomer ranked in my way too early out of the 4 newcomers is UCF. Plumlee, the quarterback, great legs, going to have to improve that passing game. But I think they got a sneaky, really good defense for next year. Barber, defensive tackle, Jason Johnson, linebacker. They've got some NFL players, guys who are going to be drafted in the first couple rounds in the NFL draft. They've got them on the UCF Knights defense. That's why I have UCF number 7. Number 6, Oklahoma. Is Brent Venables the right guy at the right time in the right location in Norman, Oklahoma? I'm starting to think maybe not. Maybe not. They have their Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback, returning. That's a good thing for Oklahoma Sooners. But that defense, I think we'll see. We'll see. That secondary has been a mess for years. We'll see if Brent Venables can get them back on. I've got them number 6 with the potential to slide after I see the spring football games. Number 5, I'm gullible. I'm telling you, I'm taking the Baylor Bears. I had them repeating as Big 12 champions, and they disappointed this season, 2022. But I still like Blake Shapen. I think he's going to round out to be a really good Big 12 quarterback. Dave Aranda switched the defensive coordinator, which he needed to do because the Baylor Bears defense just completely disappeared. They lost some close games. I think they're going to win the close games next year. I've got them number 5. Number 4, Texas Tech Red Raiders. Joey McGuire, head coach, new contract, brilliant job. You can see the difference in that Texas Tech football program. You can see it. You can feel it. Red Raider fans are excited. I've got Texas Tech number 4. They defeated Oklahoma and Texas last year for the first time in a long time. Number 3, I got TCU Horned Frogs. A lot of people have them dropping big time. I don't. I think Sonny Dykes is going to have TCU competing to get into the Big 12 championship game again. They lose Max Duggan, but they get Chandler Morse. Remember, he was supposed to be the starting quarterback in week 1. He got injured. TCU, I still think they're going to be highly competitive. I'm looking at an 8-4, 9-3 TCU Horned Frog teams for 2023. Number 2, I've got the reigning, defending, undisputed Big 12 champion, Kansas State Wildcats. Ooh, they're going to yell at me. I call them Jayhawks. Kansas State Wildcats. Again, that's another team that a lot of Big 12 fans have them dropping back. I don't. I think they're going to get back to the Big 12 championship game. Will Howard was looking so comfortable last season in that pocket. He was brilliant at the end of that season. There weren't many quarterbacks better than Will Howard. Oh, and guess what? He's got his whole offensive line, starting offensive line, returning for next season. Will Howard, Kansas State. Chris Kleiman, who was on a lot of hot board lists. Well, guess what? He's going back to Manhattan. He loves Manhattan. Kansas State, I think they're going to be formidable in 2023 and the years beyond. I think they're going to be one of the premier teams in the new Big 12 as long as they keep Chris Kleiman. And number 1 on my way too early Big 12 prediction, Texas is back. Texas Longhorns, number 1, Quinn Ewers. He's going to be healthy next year. It's going to be his second year as a starting quarterback. But I don't even know if he's going to be able to keep his job because Arch Manning has arrived. Arch Manning, the number 1 college football player in the 2023 class, the number 1 quarterback. I think he takes that spot in his true freshman season. Game 4, Game 5, Game 6. The Longhorns might lose early, but they're going to win late. They're going to get to the Big 12 championship game, and they're going to win it all. Texas is back. Let me know in the comments section how crazy I am for falling for it. I'm falling for burnt orange in 2023. Steve Sarkisian, I have some issues with. Some deep reservations. But I've got Texas winning it all. for the Big 12. That's my way too early predictions for the Big 12. Let's get back to your comments. Again, sorry, I'm going to have to skip over a lot of these. Tony, I got West Virginia in the Sugar Bowl. Thanks to the cooler. Steve Mosier, Oklahoma State will probably be at the bottom of the Big 12 next year. Maybe, possibly. I got them at number 9. Steve Mosier, why are you talking football and basketball season? This is college football's peak around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We talk college football 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, something like that. This is a college football channel, not a college basketball channel. We have our lane and we stay in it. We talk basketball once in a while when it pertains to realignment or the value of schools, such like that. But we do not talk basketball. We talk college football here at PATC. Okay. Jason W., even though PAC will make a fair bit less than the Big 12 people, still won't leave to chase a few $1 million. Extra revenue doesn't equal more wins. Bob Thompson says $10 million per year for each school. Don't know what you mean by that. Let me know what that $10 million per year for each school, Rebecca. I think I missed what you mean by that comment. Monovision, USC, UCLA can afford that easier than others. Well, Wild Oot, $10 million per school. That's some steep interest. Ooh, that's. Yeah, but is it $10 million per year for each school? Like $10 million for each of those years, which would be like 5 years, so that'd be $50 million. Let me know what you're saying there, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Steve Mosier, you have Oklahoma State way too high, my man. All right, we'll see. Maybe I'll make the adjustments. This is my way too early. In my way too early in the summer, maybe I'll knock the Cowboys down. We shall see. We're going to be doing watch parties. Yes, we're that crazy here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be doing watch parties during spring games of some of the teams. So subscribe to our channel. You'll get notified of when we're going to do the watch parties for the spring games. You can join us and put down your comments in the comments section or do a phone call during the games. Monovision, compounding interest on $50 million is steep. Holy moly. Dale Donuts, for how many years? If I'm USC, I will not pay for this. Again, if you want to talk about it, call in at 763-260-1333. Subscribe to our channel. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to the channel, help us keep the lights on, hit the $sign. We'll get to your comments right away. Even if you're ripping on your host, Wild Oot, that's a fabulous 5-year investment. Good one on Comcast. Yikes. This is getting worse. I knew it was bad. We had a scandal breaking 2 hours before we were going to do our show. Now we got interest, compound interest, part of the story. This is going to get wild, isn't it? Kenneth, nice to see you in the house, sir. Amazon wants nothing to do with the Pac-12 after taking a bloodbath with the NFL, unless you think the Pac-12 has more viewers than the NFL. Well, Amazon, they want to get into the college sports space. They want to present live sport content. And besides the NBA, which Amazon's going to go hard after, There isn't a whole lot of other packages out there for Amazon to go get. They tried to get the Big Ten. They offered more money than NBC, CBS, and ABC, but they couldn't get it. Now they're going to try to get PAC, and they're probably going to get the PAC-12. And at least that's some content to put on their streaming Amazon Prime. We know that there's other streaming services that are looking at trying to get live sport content on their platforms, like Netflix, a little bit like Netflix. There's nothing that brings ad rates up than putting live sports content, because it's people do during the live sport content, it's hard to DVR that content, right? Your eyeballs are on the advertisers, the advertising. So that's why live sports is still king in this country when it comes to stuff like this. What I cannot figure out is why a partner is this poor in their own accounting. That's a great comment, Dale Donuts. Great comment. I mean, what was Comcast doing? Or if it was Comcast, allegedly Comcast. They're distributing this money out to Pac-12 and they don't know that, I don't know. Crazy. Crazy story, and it looks like it's going to get a little crazier. Mona Vision, new Pac fight song. Brother, can you spare a dime? All right, Mona Vision. All right. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate your generosity, Mona Vision. You've been very generous with us here at Peek Around the Corner. I appreciate you, my Buckeye brother. And that's some good humor right there. We have the funniest, is that a word? The most funniest, humorous chat room in all of college football, YouTube. Thank you, Motivision. Appreciate it. Okay, Rebecca's saying, okay, it's $10 million per school to pay it back. Way more than I thought. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, that's 10 million is a lot of money. And when you're looking at the Pac-12 schools, you know how tight these budgets are. Even in the Big Ten, for not for schools like Ohio State but most of the Big Ten schools, most schools, they're running on they have all these debt payments they have to pay, right? For the stadiums, for their for everything, right? And so they maximize their debt payments yearly. So they want to pay as much as they can every year to pay down the debts that all these schools have and all these facilities in their for their sports. So that's why you see people often ask the question, why does University of Indiana make $129 million in revenue, and their expense is also exactly $129 million? Like, why is the expense always match the revenue? The biggest reason you see that is because schools pay as much as they can. Whatever revenue they have left over each and every year, they take that money and they use it as debt payment on things that they owe. So, $10 million, a $10 million that came out, a $10 million bill that comes out of nowhere. This doesn't have to do with paying off a coach or some other scandal. Just $10 million out of the blue. That bill arrives at the athletic director's table. That hurts. That hurts a lot. Tony, memories of of the way we were. Thank you, Tony, for that donation. Appreciate you, good sir. Tough Tony, Gopher fan. Thank you for your donation to the show to help us keep the lights on. I appreciate you, my brother. Once again, you know what? Good days. There is going to be a good day for the Pac-12. No question. It's going to happen. They're going to get the deal done. Then they're going to be able to work and organize and have strategy around whatever deal they end up with. And I think they're going to go out and get Southern California, San Diego State. I think they're going to grab SMU. If it's not SMU, it's going to be Fresno State, in my belief. But there is going to be a good day again for the Pac-12. But, George Kliavkoff, you got to move on it. Don't be so confident. Move on it. Get the deal done. The great unknown is circling around. Cloak and dagger. You don't know what's going to happen. Get the deal done. Kenneth, that's why SMU won't help you, because they are 9th in that market. Those fan bases also have lots of money to dedicate to their fandom. Watch them travel in bowl season. I think SMU should be the 12th school. Lots of money, great market. No, they don't have a high intensity, like they don't have a big slice of that market. But then again, they've never been a Power 5 program. They haven't been, and for decades, I should say. They haven't enjoyed that exposure. Right, becoming a Pac-12 school, that would help SMU. That would help Fort Worth, Texas, at least become somewhat, a little bit, a slice of Pac-12 country. And they have a lot of money that supports that football program and the other sports. And I think it'd be great for the Pac-12 schools to be able to go down in Texas and say, hey, Jimmy, you want to play for us? Because you know what? We're going to be traveling down to SMU to play them 2 times in the next 4 years, where all your family in Texas can come and watch you. I think it would just help Pac-12 University get a little bit more diversified, get into that central time zone. I think SMU will be the 12th school of the Pac-12. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Dale Donuts says, flip Texas and Texas Tech. Dale Donuts think the Red Raiders are going to win it all. They're on the come. The Red Raiders are on the come. They got a shot. Joey McGuire. I love that guy. I love Joey McGuire. If I knew that Texas Tech defense was going to improve a little bit more, we'll see. This is my way too early predictions. But I do feel ya, Texas. No bowl for Texas, Tony. Come on, Tony. I'm not going to be that far off. Texas is back. Arch Manning. Rebecca, we don't need SMU for viewers. We want them because it gets players from Texas to play in Texas again. Absolutely. I agree. Luis Carlos Diaz, San Diego State. Yep, I think it's their time. I think it's the perfect storm for San Diego State. We've been talking about that. Wow, dude. Kenneth, there isn't a P5 anymore. There is a P2. I'm going to continue to call it a Power 5. And I'm not going to stop calling it a Power 5 until we see a differential. If we see a differential in payment distribution between the 5 Power 5 conferences in the next playoffs, 2026 expanded playoffs.
Call from
Mireya Flugar.
Oh no.
To accept, press 1.
Oh no, it's Medea Flugar, the moderator. She rules with an iron fist.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi,
It's
honey.
nice
How you
to
doing?
you.
Do you have
How
a
do you
college
do?
football question?
Nope.
Nope. This is college football now. This is not football in Mexico. Okay?
I have a request.
Oh no, she has a request.
I want you to sing your Peek Around the Corner song.
You want me to sing the Peek Around the Corner song?
Yes.
Um,
Come on. I think so everyone wants to hear that.
well, yeah.
Maybe.
What the little general is saying, yes, the little general is live. That is the little general. She rules with an iron fist. She is the moderator. She's also the wife. She has put a request in for me to sing the Peek Around the Corner song. It's actually not, it's a song that we were going to have as the opening to the show, but we decided to go into a different direction. It was supposed to be just like a 15-second thing to start the show. I'm not sure anyone really wants to hear that, honey. I'm not seeing any yeses in the comment section. If I see a bunch of yeses in the comment section, I'll sing it. But if I see more no's, I will not sing it. Does that sound fair?
That's a good deal.
Huh?
That's a good deal. Yes, that's a good deal.
That's a good deal. Okay, if we get more yeses, I'll sing it. If we get a whole bunch of no's, I'm not going to sing it. Thank you, honey, for your phone call. I know you're working hard, okay?
Okay.
Okay, love you,
Thank
honey.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Okay, let's see what's happened here. Monovision says we demand it. Tony says sing it. 513 says yes. Monovision says yes. Oh my goodness, it's going against me here. Wild Oot says yes. Rebecca says yes. Monovision says C. Danielle Dilly says yes. Quee. Little General rules. Wild Oot. Boy, this is not going to be good for all of your ears. And then Dale Donut says, sing, Greg. Rebecca says, we demand singing. Usually I would demand a little donation for me to sing. But because this came from the little general, I'm going to have to sing it. You guys put yes. It's just a little song. It's not... Again, it's not going to sound good because your host is singing it, but we'll give it a shot. So this was going to be the first part of every episode, but we went a different direction. I kind of like what we did. But anyways, this is the Peek Around the Corner song. Peek around the corner. Peek around the corner, peek around the corner, college football. Peek around the corner, peek around the corner, peek around the corner. With Greg Flugar. All right, something like that. So that song would be going on while you see that first part of the show. But we went in a different direction, thank goodness. Because can you imagine hearing that every single time You get notified that a new show is on. That would be harmful, hurtful to all of you. I would get no subscribers. No one would watch a show. Okay, honey, I hope she was listening. And let's get back to the comments. Luis Carlos Diaz says, hi, Mrs. Flugar. Dale Donuts, like America's Got Talent. Dale Donuts. Okay. Monovision, well, this is getting auto-tune and set to a sick beat. Yeah, get that auto-tune. Dale Donuts, Greg's wife, must have had money riding on that. Gonna have to release that single, Rebecca. Tony, the little general, was weak in the knees the first time you serenaded her, I bet. I don't know about that. Medea says, thanks. You are welcome, honey. Terry Fox and the Pac-12 Network. Again, what happens to the Pac-12 Network through all of this? Because ESPN doesn't want it. Fox Sports doesn't want it. Yeah, ESPN is the sugar daddy of the ACC network, of the SEC network. Fox Sports is the sugar daddy of the Big Ten network, right? They're the ones who built those networks up. Big Ten schools do own a slice of the Big Ten network. They did pay back the upfront costs to Fox Sports. But see, no one really wants to put that investment into a Pac-12 network. They don't think they'll get the eyeballs on those third tier content. Pac-12 didn't even really want anyone to come in. At first, with Larry Scott, he wanted the Pac-12 schools to own the whole network, and they do. But now, in the last few years, the Pac-12 kind of wanted someone to buy equity into the network. Remember those reports? They were willing to sell. To get back in range of the SEC schools and the Big Ten school payouts, the Pac-12 conference wanted to sell an equity, part of that to a potential media company, a media partner. But that never really happened. That didn't happen. So what happens to the Pac-12 network? I think, just a guess, just speculating, that the Pac-12 network, as long as Amazon gets a large part of the Tier 1 content, the bigger Pac-12 games, that the Amazon will put that in their new sports app on their Amazon Prime streaming. That's what I think what's going to happen. But we'll see. Luis Carlos, hit that like button. Thank you. Hit that like button. I don't know who Yogi Roth is. Who is Yogi Roth? Don't know who that is. The cooler has the voice of an angel who swallowed a youper. Lorenzo Haynes brings up a very good point. And this is not lost on Pac-12 schools, right? That this is not lost on Oregon or Washington. They know this. Texas kids are going to be in a Pac-12 school to be on Amazon instead of the Big 12, SEC, Big 10, ACC on Fox Sports and ESPN. Be for real. That's a good point. Now, If SMU gets an invitation to join the Pac-12, SMU is gone. But if there's some Texas student athletes in whatever sport are sitting out there being recruited, it will help the Pac-12 schools have a better shot at getting those athletes if there's SMU in the conference. I also believe that. But these athletes, how are they going to look at having most of the games being played on Amazon, some of their games being played on ESPN, maybe once a year, once in your lifetime being played on CBS? How are they going to look at that versus most of the games being played on Fox and ESPN, NBC? Very tough situation for the Pac-12, as we've discussed. Yogi Roth is a former Pitt Panther who coached at USC under Pete Carroll. He now does analyst for the Pac-12 Network and the Elite 11 quarterback school. Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate that information. What is the call-in number? 763-260-1333. It's also written on the ticker below on the bottom of the screen. 763-260-1333 is the number for Peek Around the Corner. Put that number into your phone because we're keeping that number. That is ours at Peek Around the Corner. Rebecca says, I'd sell my right kidney not to have Gilmore call a game again. Wow. Rebecca says, exposure also comes from ESPN doing their studio stuff. Remember, it's ESCCPN for a reason. If ESPN decides to push the Pac-12 more, then they will have that exposure. Monovision. I only listen to Jerry DiNardo when it comes to hard-hitting. I hope you're kidding on that. When it comes to hard-hitting analysis. So I love, obviously I love college football, everything about it. I even love the spring football games. In fact, this is a good one for you, Monovision. And I put it out on Twitter. I love Joe Burrow. He was in a spring game. He was playing behind your starter there. I can't remember. Anyways, I love watching spring games. I do. I'm one of the very few that love watching spring football games. But the Big Ten, the Big Ten Network, they go to each facility, they talk with the coaches, they talk with the key players, and they give their analysis of each of the teams. And most of the time, we passionate fans of our schools, I laugh at their analysis because it's so general. It's every year you can predict what they're going to say for each school, right? Oh, this team, if they can beat, if it's Rutgers, if they can beat Maryland and Indiana, maybe they can win 5 games. It's the same repetitive over and over again. I see that motivate. Yeah, Haskins. Yeah. They just say the same thing over and over again. It's pretty funny. And I like DiNardo. I like listening to him. Hard-hitting analysis, not so much, but I know you were joking. Monovision, DiNardo is the Big Ten Network analyst and former Indiana coach. He's terrible. I don't think he's terrible. He doesn't really give you total analysis of each team. He sort of just... I did like it last year when they came out of the Nebraska spring football game and all of them on that Big Ten Network show said, this team's no good. This team's the worst team. And sure enough, they had another horrible season. The Cornhusker fans were just besides themselves when they saw that show, but they turned out to be correct. Trench Grinch, nice to see you in the house, sir. I am now convinced that Greg was an original member of the Time with Morris Day. Well, I'm in the right state, but no, I was not. When's the big supposed to decide on the future schedule format? Are you asking about the Big Ten, Tony? I do not know the answer. That was supposed to happen a while ago. We're supposed to have Rebecca. Thanks for your call. Thanks for all your information. Appreciate it. Go Always, go Huskies. Thank you, Rebecca. Tony, we got the 2023 schedule. There has to be decisions made about the permanent rival situation. How many permanent rivals are you going to have on your schedule? That hasn't been decided yet. There's been a couple of times where athletic directors have come out in front of the microphone in interviews and said, we're really close, we're going to do it, we expect to do it in a couple of weeks, and it hasn't happened. My prediction is it's going to be the great compromise. Iowa's going to have 3 permanent rivals on their schedules. Gophers are going to have 3 permanent rivals. Wisconsin's going to have 3 permanent rivals. USC and UCLA are going to have 1 against each other. Penn State's going to have 1 or 0. I think that's the only way you can build consensus in the Big Ten scheduling if you come to, if you just have this big compromise. That's my prediction. As crazy as it sounds, I think Penn State's going to have 1 or 0 and Iowa's going to have 3.
Call from
Dale Donuts.
to accept.
Dale, nice to hear from you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for taking my call.
You got it. The floor is yours.
Oh, that's okay. No, this whole thing with the Pac-12 and all of the turmoil that's going on, I can't help wondering of, what's going to be left for them if they don't get this deal done soon. I mean, a lot of companies are laying off. Google today laid off. Microsoft recently laid off. Big tech is laying off. What's going to be left if the advertising dries up? What is going to be left? This deal that the Big 12 did, getting in front of the line, was just brilliant. The guy over in the Big 12 country, Euromark, he's been way ahead of Kliakov every step of the way. I'm just wondering what is going to be left after it's all said and done. What advertising? Advertising, the first thing is to go, really, when a recession hits. Those are the people that are being let go right now. The marketing, the advertisers, the guy that do design, that stuff.
You are absolutely correct. The market for the media companies is tightening. They're laying off. The ad buys haven't gotten back to pre-pandemic levels. The money isn't there as much as it was before. We talked about it here on this show. I think it was on the last live show. How if there was reports of it's a different industry, but the same problems where Vince McMahon, the owner of WWE, wants to sell WWE or potentially sell WWE, and it's come out in reports that the 2 media companies that he has his content distributed on, Fox and I believe USA, those 2 companies are taking a huge loss in the last couple of years. The money that they distribute to WWE is like $190 million per year. I could be off by a few million. But the money they're getting in ad buys, the companies that get played during WWE content, is falling way short. dramatically short. So it might reduce the value of Vince McMahon trying to sell his company to a media company, because the word is the media companies are falling short on ad money. Again, like you said, Dale, these companies are already laying off people in their marketing, PR. They're laying people off. So, come on, Kliakoff, get this deal done. Take the deal, what's in front of you. If you can, maybe Oregon and Washington are stonewalling him. I gotta believe that they potentially are. And then you brought up Brett Yormark. He came way up from 18 months and got the deal done. He wanted to get the deal done, right? He moved that exclusive window up and moved it all the way up, and he got it done. Brilliant work by Brett Yormark.
I think he saw it coming. I think he really saw, everything starting to come. I mean, it said that he knew different players in different advertising companies and agencies, right. And I'm willing to bet that that's what happened, and that's why he said, I'm making a move now. I don't care what that other conference is doing. We're making a move now. And you see everything now. A lot of things are changing. Some people are getting worried. I mean, if you look at recently, even just from Christmas, they said Christmas sales were down everywhere, just now being reported this last week. Mm-hmm. Everything was down. So that tells me that all these companies going into the next year, even the next few years, are not going to be advertising all that much in the next couple of years. There's going to be a scramble. The value for advertising is going to be less. Now, the question is, where do guys, like the Pac-12, where do they go from here? I hate to see them scramble, but at the same time, I also believe that Oregon and Washington are more than stonewalling. They're probably saying, we don't want to do a grant of rights. If the Big Ten calls us, we want to be out of here. We don't want to sign anything. And that's kind of why I doubled down, a few weeks back, you remember, on the Oregon State and Wazoo, saying they're going to be one of the first ones to try and negotiate, because those guys are gone. Where do you think they're going to end up? They're going to end up in the Mountain West Conference or something like that, because Big 12 is only going to be interested in four corners. They'll want people from they negotiate now. They'll be in front of the line, and they're not going to be too worried. But who knows? Maybe the Pac-12 can get a deal. I don't know.
Yeah. You are the one that keeps bringing up Wazoo and Oregon State. That's true. Again, more than ever before, here, I peek around the corner, and most people in the chat room agree with me. Every day that goes by, we say, why? Got to get the deal done now. Got to get it done now. Got to get it done now. And now with this news that came out, I don't know. It's just, they got. If you and I are having this discussion next Friday evening, I mean, where are we at then? Like you say, what do they do? They have no leverage now in this negotiation, less than ever. No leverage. Deal done.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, sir.
Thank you, Greg. Bye.
Appreciate it very, very much. And he brings up Dale Donuts brings up a great. Dale Donuts brings up a great point about Brett Yormark. Knowing the market, knowing the markets, knowing the advertisers. He came from that side of the business, so he probably felt like, things were tightening up. He wanted to. People gave him a lot of grief about, why don't you wait? Because the sports bubble, it's going to keep growing, and it is going to keep growing long term. But why don't you just wait 16 months out? Why are you doing the deal now? Why did you move up the exclusive window? Wait on it. Wait on it. It's just going to grow. You're going to get a little bit more value than the Pac-12 if Pac-12 gets their media done now and you wait a year and a half. But Brett Yormark said, no, I want to get this. I want to move this up. Fox Sports and ESPN acquiesced. They said, okay, move it up. They negotiated. And then when Brett Yormark said, I feel confident we're going to get the deal done in a couple weeks, people said, he's just selling. Well, he actually closed. He closed on the deal. Now, if you ask Brett Yormark or any of the Big 12 presidents today, and you sat in front of them and you said, would you rather have the deal that you have now or wait 12 months, because now it's 4 months later, would you rather have your deal you have now or do the deal 12 months from now? I think all of them would say, no doubt, I'm glad we take our deal that we have right now. We don't want to do it 12 months from now. And part of that is how Dale Donut said, the market and media company, that money is tightened up. No question about it. Everyone says it, not just us here at Peek Around the Corner. Brilliant phone call. Thank you so very much. Terry Fox, the lawyers are salivating over the proposed California law as it needs to be titled the California Lawyers Employment Act. Yeah, if that goes through, there's going to be some things going on in the courts. Ooh, what's this? Jaden Rashada is going to Arizona State. Oh, that's my Peek Around the Corner prediction, or is that what happened? I know Arizona State's in the game. I know they're deep in the game on that. Jaden Rashada. Kenny Dillingham, he's going to make things happen out there. Is that a prediction, Trench the Grinch, or is that breaking news? Let me know. Tony, in my schedule, Illinois gets Northwestern, Nebraska, in USC, UCLA. Roman Maroney, Illinois, Ohio State. Yeah, I just think there's going to be a great compromise. I think that's how they get it done in the Big Ten schedule. We're going to wrap it up. We've been on the live for 2 hours. So thank you all for coming in to the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. College football's Peek Around the Corner. Again, make sure you put that phone number in, 763-260-1333. Put that in your phone. That is the number to call. Anytime we are on live, it's going to be a call-in show. Call in, let me know your thoughts. You have the floor, whatever you want to talk about in college football. Tonight was a crazy night. We talked about this huge, I'm going to call it a scandal. Pac-12, 2 top executives allegedly, just to keep us protected here at Peek Around the Corner, allegedly got fired. The Pac-12 Network, the president and CFO. So, more pressure on George Kliavkoff to get that Pac-12 media done. And then I went through my way too early Big 12 predictions. Texas is back. They're number 1. Number 2 is Kansas State. Number 3 is TCU. Number 4, Texas Tech. Number 5, Baylor. Number 6, Oklahoma State. 7, UCF. 8, Kansas. 9, Oklahoma State. 10, Iowa State. 11, Cincinnati. 12, Houston. 13, BYU. And 14th, West Virginia Mountaineers. Those are my predictions. Put down yours in the comment section below the video. Hang with us here at Peek Around the Corner. There's going to be breaking news eventually here on what we talked about on December 26th. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.